I worked at a haunted elementary school. Whole story. I worked as a custodian in an elementary school for about a year at the time, and I had heard stories from my dad about the place being haunted. He would come home and tell me what the ghost had did that day and how he couldn't wait to see what it did next time. I honestly thought he was just being the goofy dad he is, always telling interesting stories that may or may not have happened. I had never had a true encounter with a ghost before or thought they were real, but I can tell you that I definitely believe in them now. My first ever encounter with the ghost happened as I was turning off the hallway lights for the night. It was around 11:25 p.m., and all the classrooms had been cleaned and ready for the next day, so all that was left was doing security and turning lights off. As I reached the light switches in the front hallway by the library, I heard a little kid giggle. It came from the library, and it was faint, but very clear. I froze in place for a moment, and the hairs on my arms stood on end. Then, without another moment wasted, I ran as fast as I could to the boiler room where us custodians reside at the end of our shift. I looked at my other swing shift coworker and told them what happened. They were freaked out. Then I asked them to come with me because I was scared, and we still had a few more lights to turn off. They didn't want to go, but I said we have to turn those lights out. After a bit of convincing and the potential of getting in trouble for lights being on, they begrudgingly agreed to come with me and stayed very close. As we made it to the switches by the library, I was quick to turn them off, then the ones by the front doors, and then the last ones by the school kitchen. Thankfully, nothing else happened that night or while I was with the coworker in the hallway turning lights off. We were both happy it was done and over with, but I knew my coworker was only temporary, and I had been assigned to this particular school for quite some time, so I was going to be stuck dealing with whatever was going on. I went home after my shift was over and told my dad what had happened. He didn't believe me and told me that he felt the spirit had left after he had acknowledged its presence for a length of time. I asked him what he meant, and he said that one day when he went into the school to clean, he felt like the weight on his shoulders was lighter, as if the spirit had left. Then he said that he never had another ghostly encounter happen since then. I told him that maybe the ghost decided to come back. My dad still brushed it off. Little did he or I know that this was just the beginning to a chain of incidences that happened after my own personal encounter with the ghost boy. Extra. The ghost is believed to be an autistic boy who tragically died on the way to the hospital from the school. Apparently his favorite place in the school was the library, but he also haunts the hallway and a few of the lower-grade classrooms. This information was confirmed by the teacher who had him for a student and the principal who soon left after my dad confirmed there was an entity in the school when she asked him if he thought something was going on in the building. Guess she doesn't do well with ghosts. Part 2. The next encounter. After having my first interaction with the ghost boy, with that little kid giggle by the library late at night, I was on high alert the next day and days after that one. A number of days passed with no incident occurring, but that didn't stop me from wondering when it will happen again, or something different than before. I was nervous and not exactly looking forward to another incident, especially since today of all days, the original owner of the other custodial route came back, and they have what is called a split route, meaning they work 4 hours at one school and then 4 hours at another. Today, they were going to my school first and the other school last, meaning I would be all alone in the building for closing. Things started out just fine while I started my shift. Teachers were still around, and I would conversate with them while wiping down their classroom sink and grabbing their garbage. At first, I didn't tell them about the ghost situation, as I didn't want to seem like some kind of weirdo or psycho. Plus, it was only one time, and surely there had to be some kind of explanation about what happened, right? Well, later in the shift, when all the teachers and staff had gone home, I was in one of the kindergarten rooms vacuuming the carpet. The kids' desks were arranged in small groups, and I casually went around them with the vacuum cleaner and used the wand to get in between the legs of the desks. As I straightened back up from reaching with the wand, I felt the sensation of fingertips on the top of my head. Not only that, but it felt like it was squeezing and releasing lightly. Whatever it was crunching the hairspray I had spritzed on my hair to keep all my wild, stray hairs in place as I wore my ponytail. I gasped and turned my vacuum cleaner off and ran for the large mirror in the classroom, thinking rationally that maybe there was something on my head. I don't know, like a spider or something. Something other than what it felt like. The fingertip sensation had stopped since running to the mirror. Realizing this, I turned around and faced the classroom and looked about. Was someone playing a prank on me? I called out and said, "Hello?" But no one answered. After waiting and listening a few moments, I walked back over to my vacuum cleaner and went back to vacuuming. It was not long after starting the vacuum that I felt 5 fingertips once more sinking into my hair and began crunching on my hairspray. This time I just shouted, "Knock it off!" and turned the vacuum off. As I stood there, the fingertips still persisted, but only for a second. Then it felt like they were slowly lifting from my head. And then I felt nothing. I had to admit to myself that something was definitely going on. And in that moment, I pretty much embraced the idea that there was indeed a playful, little boy ghost messing with me. Probably thought it was funny and wanted to mess with the hairspray in my hair. So I then said out loud, "Please don't do that again. I really don't like it. It scares me." After that, the crunching of my hairspray stopped entirely, and the rest of my night was quiet and peaceful. That is, until next time. Part 3. For a recap, the first encounter with the ghost boy was a little giggle that happened in the library, and then feeling what felt like fingers crunching the hairspray in my hair. The next encounter I had with the ghost boy was actually not exactly scary, but still something strange that occurred. This was the day that I started to tell some of my talkative teachers about my experiences with the ghost in the school. They seemed genuinely uneasy after telling them about it, but one teacher whom I spoke about it to told me that she had a student that was special needs that died on the way to the hospital. The name of the child matched what I had been told as well, confirming the ghost's identity. She also told me that he was playful and a bit of a prankster, and it made me smile when she said that because the things he did were on par with a little boy being that way. Then the teacher also stated that he loved the library. Again, on par with what made sense to me and my personal interaction with the ghost kid so far. Unbeknownst to me, I had set my phone down while I talked to the teacher, and after our little talk, I walked out and had forgotten about it. However, as I moved to the next classroom to clean, I felt a sharp, poking feeling in my back, pant pocket. The pocket I keep my phone in. I ignored it, thinking I was just sore from a tough work week, but the pain continued and came in waves, like someone using their finger to poke hard against my right butt cheek. I could not take it anymore as it just continued, distracting me with uncomfortable pain. So when I left the classroom and made my way into the hallway, I reached a hand back and touched my back, right pocket area. It was then I realized my phone was missing. I gasped and backtracked my steps, and recalled having taken out my phone when I spoke to the ghost boy's teacher. When I came back into her classroom, there was my phone waiting for me. The moment I put my phone back into my back pocket, that painful poking stopped. It was such a relief, and I wondered to myself if maybe the ghost boy was trying to tell me something that I had forgotten my phone. I'd like to think that he did. After all, I never felt that pain again.